Hi guys, welcome back to Dark Vaults. If you are new here, we cover Irish true crime. If you are not new, thank you as always for watching and your support. We will just get straight into today's case. It is a murder solved, but it's quite short. There wasn't a lot of information on it, but I thought it was an interesting one and I wanted to share it with you.
The body of an 18-year-old girl was found strangled and raped in a laneway in Dublin at midday. Her body was discovered naked except for a dress around her lower legs in a laneway off Kirwan Street, which is near Manor Street. Murder Squad detectives are investigating the incident.
At lunchtime on the 25th of September 1983, two brothers who were 5 and 6 were out playing when they came across the body of a woman in a laneway off Kirwan Street in Dublin. They thought that the woman might have been drunk, and so they went and told their mother, but their mother then notified the Gardaí. A security guard who lived on Kirwan Street, his name was Walter Denton, he liked to listen in, like to the police scanner, he liked to listen to this. And so he heard the call coming, and so he ran down to the laneway and there were some women standing there, but no one had gone down to the body. So he went down and looked and could tell that the woman was dead. She was naked, her dress was down by the bottom of her legs. And so he went back up and stood at the top of the laneway and basically wouldn't let anyone in. He was being very no. And some women even were saying they wanted to go down and cover her, but he wouldn't let anyone enter. And when the paramedics arrived, he brought them down. As one of them was walking down, they were about to stand on a pair of spectacles, a pair of glasses. So he stopped them, moved them away, they went a different way. And again, he kind of watched out for this. There was different things kind of strewn around and he made sure nothing was touched. Chief Superintendent John Courtney, the head of the murder squad, would arrive on site with Superintendent William J. Herlihy and Detective Dick Walsh. And the first thing he asked was, 80s Ireland, has she been anointed? And they said no. So he called for a priest. After this then, they obviously went about investigating. It was clear there had been a struggle in the laneway from obviously her items, her personal items from her bag being thrown around. The state pathologist, John Harrison, would arrive and he would say that the cause of death was from strangulation. As I said, the woman was basically naked and there were also bite marks on her body. Denise, Flanagan's mother, heard about the woman found in the laneway and knew it was her daughter. The family lived in Grange Gorman Villas in Stoneybatter. 18-year-old Denise had not come home from a night out and she was due in work the next day. She worked in St. Brandon's Psychiatric Hospital in Grange Gorman. We've spoken about that before. As part of the kitchen and cleaning staff. I read that she was the second eldest of 8 kids. She had 4 brothers and 3 sisters. And she had gone to Stanhope Street School. So her mum rang here to see if she had just gone straight to work and they said she hadn't turned up. So when she heard, she knew. Her husband notified the Gardaí. The body was identified as Denise and the Gardaí set about trying to figure out the timeline of her night before. So at 6 p.m, Denise had headed over to her friend Ruth's, and at around 7 p.m, they headed in to the Rainbow Disco on Exchequer Street. At around midnight, Ruth and her boyfriend decided they wanted to go home and Denise wanted to stay on and said she'd make her own way home. So they left. Denise then went on to Rumours nightclub and here she actually met a girl that she knew, Patricia, and she was with her brother. So they were dancing, they were talking, and just before 2 a.m, Denise left. At 2:30, Patricia, her brother and a couple of other people headed into the Burger King on O'Connell Street. And when they sat down, they saw Denise at a nearby table and she was talking to a man. Patricia would say that they were talking to Denise and, chatting and joking and stuff across the table. And that at 3 a.m, Patricia's group then left. About 10 minutes or so later, the security guard for Burger King, Michael Doyle, was then trying to clear everybody out. And so Denise and this fella left. And they walked across then to O'Connell Bridge, where Patricia and her friends and stuff were still there. So again, they were talking. It's said that Patricia's brother kisses Denise. Now, I don't know if they meant in a romantic way or just kind of a friendly way. But then Denise and the other guy then head off to the other side of the bridge and get a taxi. This taxi was driven by Peter Byrne, and he would be tracked down by the Gardaí. And he said that when they got in, Denise said she was getting dropped off at Manor Street, but he was under the impression that there would be 2 stops. He said that the couple were embracing in the back of the taxi, you know, kissing, hugging, whatever. When they got to Manor Street, Denise was getting out, and then that the fella went to get out after her. He paid the taxi, and he got out, and the taximan heard Denise saying, "Are you not staying on?" And he said no. He then saw the 2 of them cross Manor Street onto Kirwan Street. I read that there was a huge turnout for Denise's funeral. The Gardaí obviously took all the different items from the laneway, and this included the spectacles that they found. And they knew that Denise did not wear glasses, so they believed that they could belong to her killer. So they liaised with Brendan Culleton. He was the director of Optics International Limited. So they basically supplied all the glasses to the different opticians and stuff. And so I'm just going to read what the glasses were. So the spectacles were, quote, a Balin brand, and they were made by Barbudo of Madrid. The frames were 560/4 or over 4. The lenses were pear-shaped 65mm lenses, 0.5 dioptic on both sides. And I mean, I wear glasses, you think I would know this stuff. There was a slight tint at B.15, and these were a relatively new brand, kind of only out in the last year or so. So basically, they wanted to check all the records to see if there was any way they could find who owned these glasses. 247,000 records were gone through. They basically started in Dublin city centre opticians, and then they branched it out to the rest of Dublin and then to the rest of Ireland. One by one, they would go to the different opticians and speak to them. And Detective Martin Thompson would go to the Angela O'Neill's opticians in Blanche on the 15th day of the investigation. And the following day, he would receive a call from her that those glasses had been sold to a 23-year-old Michael Flynn. He was from St. Patrick's Park in Blanchardstown, and he worked for a company that made aluminum windows. Michael was arrested and brought to Bridewell Garda Station. When asked about his glasses, he said that he had lost them a few weeks ago at Rumours nightclub. But pretty quickly he started to become nervous, his hands were shaking, he asked him for a smoke. And then pretty much he agreed to make a statement. I am going to read what Michael Flynn said happened, just so that you know there will be the description of what happens. So I will put a timestamp if anybody wants to skip it. On Saturday night 2 weeks ago, I went on my own to Rumours Disco on O'Connell Street. I had tried to get into Heartbreaks in the Phoenix Park first, but I didn't get in as the place seemed to be full. I got into Rumours between 12:30 and 1:15. I had a few drinks there. I had earlier had a few drinks in Davy and Phelan in Blanchardstown with my brother John. In Rumours I was talking to the piano player, I think his name is Max, and to a girl that sings there sometimes, I think her name is Jackie. I was dancing on my own at the edge of the floor, and I got in for a while with a group who were also dancing. I spoke to a girl who told me she was from Terranure, and I told her that I was from Blanchardstown. I was wearing my glasses and they fell off me a few times during the night. I then put them in my breast pocket of my jacket. I got these glasses about a year ago in the opticians at the health centre in Blanchardstown. They are tinted with brown frames and with a few scratches on one of the lenses. I left the disco on my own when it was finished at about 2 o'clock. I went to Burger King on the corner of O'Connell Street. I had a cup of coffee and chips. I sat on a seat with my back to the door. There was this girl sitting facing me. I did not know her. She may have just finished eating. I think her bag was on the table. After a few minutes, she asked me if I had a cigarette. I gave her a cigarette. She asked me where I was from and I told her. She told me she worked in a hospital and she asked me where I worked. We were almost the last to leave and the doorman came over and passed some friendly remark to us. On O'Connell Street, she asked me how I was getting home. I told her I was getting a taxi. She asked, will that go by Manor Street? We agreed to go together in a taxi. As we walked from the burger place towards North Ale Street, she met some people she seemed to know. They were fellows and at least one girl. She was talking to them and she kissed one of the fellows. I stayed in the background as I did not know them. We walked to the island in the middle of O'Connell Street and got a taxi to Manor Street. In the back of the taxi, we had our arms around each other and kissed each other several times. She told the driver to go to Manor Street and stopped him near the pedestrian crossing. I paid the taxi, I think it was a few quid. We walked across Manor Street and straight down another street opposite us. We came to a laneway on the right-hand side. We stopped there and had a cigarette. We then had a court. We had moved up the lane a bit, and the same thing happened again. I'm thinking that, I'm sorry, you can tell me, but I think a court just kind of means like kissing, maybe a bit of touching, I don't know. Because if it was just a kiss, I feel like you would just say, and we were kissing. So I feel like a court might have a bit more to it, but I'm not sure. You can tell me if you know. She was coming on fairly heavy and seemed to be happy to go up the lane. We went right to the end of the lane. I was worked up and my hands were all over her. When I put my hand on her private part, she said no. I continued, and the next thing my hands were around her neck and she was trying to get her feet up to kick me. She was struggling like mad. She probably knew that I was going to kill her or hurt her seriously. She seemed to pass out. Her feet were towards the wall with her head towards the street, and she was on her back. I got up and fixed up my clothes. I walked to the end of the lane. I saw her bag on the lane. I walked into Manor Street and onto Hanlon's Corner. I walked beyond Cabra Cross and got a taxi between the Labour Exchange and the police station. I think the taxi man lives somewhere in the area. He said something about going home. I sat in the front seat and got out at the shopping centre in Blanche beyond my own road. I got home and went to bed. All my family were in bed. I got up at 12:30 the next day, Sunday. I was sick and I hoped what had happened to me was a dream. That evening I heard the whole lot on the news, that the girl had been found strangled, and I heard her name for the first time. It was Denise Flanagan. I was going to go to the police station. I was going to go to confession and I was going to ring the Samaritans, but I didn't. I was going to commit suicide by jumping in front of a train. I was worried about the effect on my family, and I still am. Just mad, isn't it? Like that was the first time they kind of exchanged names. And like, there's no judgment. Like, people are drunk and people do whatever they want. People kiss whoever they want. But it's just mad that like he killed her and didn't even know her name. His statement, I know I said it do the timestamp and all, but it's not even that graphic in the sense of he seemed to kind of just skip over what he done to her, because I remember reading it and thinking, oh, so he hadn't, raped her. But it is reported in news articles that she was murdered and raped, and her dress was pulled down, and the bite marks, like there was a lot more involved, and he just seemed to skip over that. And it was kind of like, oh, she seemed to have passed out, and then all of a sudden she was on the ground, and I was fixing my clothes and I left. But it obviously went on for longer and there was more involved than that. Michael would also tell the Gardaí what he wore, and he would allow them to take his fingerprints. He was then charged with the murder of Denise Flanagan. As they were leaving the station to head to Mountjoy, his parents came to the station, and so they asked to speak to him, and so they were allowed to kind of talk to him while he was in the car. And his mum said, quote, "You didn't do this, son. Tell Mama the truth." And that she kept saying this, and he told her, "I was there that night. I was with that girl. I don't know what happened." And his mum said, "We will stand by you." And then Michael was taken to Mountjoy. The Gardaí would also liaise with a Dr. Barry, who was an orthodontist, and so he matched Michael Flynn's dental records to the bite marks on Denise. And this was the first time this was used in Ireland. Like, bite marks. Like, that's an animal. Michael Flynn would plead guilty to the murder of Denise Flanagan, and he was sentenced to life in April 1985. He was released in July 1995. Things still have to get better in terms of life in Ireland, but when you look at that, you have to acknowledge the fact that we have gotten better in terms of sentencing. 10 years for murder and like 10 years for a life sentence. He was 35 when he got out? Like he still had his whole life ahead of him. 35 is young. I did try to look up Michael to see if there was anything else, and I couldn't find any records of him committing any other crime or anything like that, or of his release. So I can't even really tell if he went on then to kind of be a good citizen. Guys, not gonna ramble. Thank you as always for watching and supporting. Let me know what you think of this case, And so we shall see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.